Hello, I am Jiho. Today I will be talking about Oedipus Rex, a Greek tragedy written by Sophocles around 429 BC and translated by Robert Fagles. The play tells the story of Oedipus, king of Thebes, who is doomed by prophecy to kill his father and marry his mother. Believing he has escaped this fate, Oedipus eventually discovers the devastating truth. In his anguish, he then blinds himself. This tragic arc is why the play is still considered one of the greatest works in world literature. Aristotle, in his Poetics, explained why tragedies move us so deeply. A noble figure falls not because of evil, but because of a hamartia, a tragic flaw, or a mistake. This flaw leads to peripeteia, a reversal of fortune, and ultimately to anagnorisis, the recognition of truth. Every tragedy must also contain pathos, a scene of suffering that seizes the audience emotionally. Together, these elements create catharsis, a purging of pity and fear that leaves the audience shaken and cleansed. To understand why Aristotle considered Oedipus Rex the perfect tragedy, I will look at three key scenes: Oedipus' attempt to escape prophecy, his triumph over the Sphinx, and his final recognition and downfall. But first, let me briefly introduce the characters so the story is clear. Oedipus is the king of Thebes, raised in Corinth by Polybus and Merope, who he thought were his real parents. Jocasta is both his wife and unknowingly his mother. Laius, Jocasta's husband before Oedipus, is his real father, the one Oedipus kills at the crossroads. Creon is Jocasta's brother, a political figure who often clashes with Oedipus. Tiresias is the blind prophet who knows the truth early on, and the shepherd is the servant who once spared Oedipus' life as a baby and later confirms his identity. Oedipus is born to King Laius and Queen Jocasta of Thebes. An oracle delivers a terrifying prophecy: their son will kill his father and marry his mother. In horror, Laius orders the infant to be abandoned, his ankles pinned together, a cruel act that gives Oedipus his name, which means swollen foot. The fate twists even here. A shepherd spares the child and secretly delivers him to Corinth, where King Polybus and Queen Merope raise him as their own. Years later, as a young man, Oedipus hears the same prophecy. As he recalls, "I heard all this and fled. I measured the distance by the stars, running always, running to a place where I would never see the shame of the evil prophecies come to me." Not knowing he is adopted, he flees Corinth to protect Polybus and Merope, believing they are his true parents. On the road, at a fateful crossroads, he quarrels with the nobleman and his guards. In a rage, he kills them all, sparing only one survivor. What Oedipus does not realize is that the man he struck down was King Laius, his real father, fulfilling the first half of the prophecy. So, to look in Aristotle's point of view, this is Oedipus' hamartia. Not evil intent, but the tragic error of believing he can outrun destiny. Ironically, the very choice meant to save him rather seals his fate. Aristotle said the tragic hero must fall not through vice or depravity, but by some error of judgment. And this is the error. After the bloody encounter at the crossroads, Oedipus continues toward Thebes, a city paralyzed by the terror of Sphinx. This monster, with the body of a lion and the face of a woman, poses a deadly riddle to all who pass. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening? Countless men have failed and been devoured, but Oedipus solves it. Man who crawls as a child, walks upright in adulthood, and leans on a staff in old age. The Sphinx destroys herself, and Oedipus is hailed as the savior of Thebes. His victory wins him the crown and the hand of Queen Jocasta. For Oedipus, This feels like the height of fortune. He has escaped Corinth, conquered the monster, and claimed the throne. But what seems like a triumph is already tragedy in disguise. Jocasta is his mother, and in this moment of glory, he has unknowingly fulfilled the prophecy in full. And this is Oedipus Perpetua, his reversal of fortune. He believes he has conquered fate, he solved the riddle, saved the city, won a crown, taken a queen. But Aristotle argued that true tragedy strikes when apparent success hides disaster underneath. Here, Oedipus' greatest victory secretly seals his destruction, marrying Jocasta, his mother. Years later, Thebes is struck by a plague that devastates the city. The oracle at Delphi declares that the land is polluted until Laius' murderer is punished. Determined to save his people, Oedipus vows to find the killer and curses him publicly. Not realizing he curses himself. He summons the blind prophet Tiresias, who warns him. You are the pollution of this land. Furious, Oedipus rejects the prophet's words and accuses his brother-in-law, Creon, of conspiracy. But as messengers and shepherds are questioned, the horrifying truth emerges piece by piece. Oedipus is the murderer of Laius, Jocasta is his mother, and the prophecy has been fulfilled. Overcome with shame, Jocasta takes her own life. Oedipus finds her body and, in despair, blinds himself with her brooches. And he cries out, You see no more the pain I suffered, all the pain I caused. Too long you looked on the ones you never should have seen. Once the proud king of Thebes, she now wanders into exile, stripped of sight, power, and family. A broken man whose fall defines the essence of Greek tragedy. Again, in Aristotle's point of view, this moment fuses anagnorisis with pathos. Oedipus blinds himself not only as punishment, but as a symbol. So he physically lost the vision, but instead, that opened his metaphorical blindness that ruled his life for years. And what I mean by this is that he could see for his whole life, but did not perceive. However, now, in darkness, he finally recognized the truth. This union of recognition and suffering is exactly what Aristotle described as the most powerful form of tragedy, producing catharsis in the audience. But tragedy does not end only in despair. Even after everything is stripped away, Oedipus eventually finds a strange peace in exile. This echoes Friedrich Nietzsche, who argued that tragedy is valuable because it forces us to confront life suffering directly and still affirm it. Nietzsche called this amor fati, the love of fate. Oedipus embodies this idea. Despite a bizarre destiny that took everything away, he endures, and in enduring, he affirms life. So, why does this story still matter today? Because life is not always Barrow's victory. Sometimes it is Oedipus' collapse. Aristotle praised it as the perfect tragedy, and Nietzsche signed it the human challenge to say yes to life, even when fate is cruel. Oedipus Rex endures because it forces us to face what we fear most, that we are not in control, that we suffer, and yet, somehow, we must endure. That is why Oedipus is still the perfect tragedy.